Good morning, everyone. It's Kavan Hunter back with another video, Sunday morning lesson. I hope everybody's still staying safe and healthy during this coronavirus, and that we will, hopefully get to all meet in person soon, later this year. But still, at the time, we're still dealing with coronavirus, and make sure you stay safe and healthy. But without further ado, let's go into the lesson today. This morning's topic is when people don't take you seriously. That is the lesson for this morning. As I go through life right now as a young adult, one of the most challenging things I've noticed is that a lot of people kind of doubt your abilities at the moment. Because right now, we're in the stage where we're getting settled. We're trying to find our purpose. Some of us are getting married. Some of us are, dating or whatnot. And because we're kind of like in that transition stage where we're no longer just kids and we're taking on more responsibilities, but we don't have a lot of experience in a lot of things. Sometimes people will doubt your abilities or say, you're still young. You're not ready for that or whatnot. But we want to be ready. We want to be taken seriously because we're becoming full-grown adults and taking on more responsibilities. So we want people to consider us to be take us seriously, but not everybody's gonna take us seriously because we're still in that transition stage, and that can make it very difficult being a young adult. And even if you do change and become that responsible person, there's some people that are going to know the old you and that are going to actually respect that change. They'll actually resist those changes you make in your life. So if you're a person that was goofy before, not really doing a lot with your life, but then you transition to a person that's actually serious minded, that's about his business, that's taking care of stuff, sometimes people are not going to, they're like, what happened to you? Why'd you change up on us? And it can be very difficult. Actually, let's go to the book of Luke. Luke chapter 4, verse 22. Because Luke pretty much sums up what I said, what I just said. It pretty much lays it all out. Luke chapter 4, verse 22 through 24. And I'll be reading the King James Version like I always do. And it reads, "And all bare him witness, and wondered at the gracious words which proceeded out of his mouth. And they said, Is this not Joseph's son? And he said unto them, Ye will surely say unto me this proverb, Physician, heal thyself. Whatsoever we have heard done in Capernaum, do also here in thy country. And he said, Verily unto you, no prophet is accepted in his own country." What I just read was Jesus talking. He was back in his hometown, and he was, letting people know, I am the Lord. I'm the one that was prophesied about. And the people were like, isn't this Joseph's son? Don't we know him? Who's this? Who's this son of God guy? He was one of us originally. And when Jesus did the change up on him, they were kind of like, prove it kind of thing, or like they were kind of rejecting him, doubting him. And Jesus was kind of like, he says, a prophet doesn't have honor in his own country. He says, because y'all know me, y'all knew, me growing up, that y'all think y'all can, kind of put me in a box and say, I'm not who I say I am. And I believe later in the chapter that Jesus actually doesn't do many miracles in that area because of his unbelief, and he ends up leaving. If I remember correctly, I may have mixed up my stories. But when you try to get people to take you seriously, not everybody is going to go along with it. People are going to reject you or not take you seriously like you should. Now, there's three main reasons why, I just kind of came up with why people don't take you seriously. One is they doubt your intentions. They don't think you have good intentions. Two, they point out your lack of experience. And three, they don't approve of your methods. However you change up, they don't really approve of it. If it's like, your family has a traditional way of doing certain stuff and you find a better way to do it and you start to do it that way, Not everybody's gonna go along with the new way, the new better way. A lot of people are gonna go along with their traditional way. Most of us, by nature, tend to be traditional. We don't want to change up too much stuff, and sometimes it keeps us from growing like we should. So those are the three main reasons. People doubt your intentions. They point to your lack of experience, and they don't approve of the methods you use to get what you want. I think the best example of this is David. Most of us, for the most part, know the story of King David. Um, we know the story of how he slayed Goliath, became a king of Israel, the stuff he dealt with, his conflict with Saul, the current king, before he became king. And we pretty much know most of the story. But I want to dive into the early stuff about David before he became king, when he was facing Goliath, when he was still just a nobody, a shepherd, not even still considered a boy by many. And I want to dive into his story and talk about how David dealt with people not taking him seriously. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 17, and we'll actually read quite a few verses. I usually don't read that many verses, but we'll be reading quite a few verses today, and we're going to go dive into the story of 1 Samuel chapter 17, and we'll start at 23, and I think we'll end around 37. But we'll read it in sections and talk about each. So the first, let's go ahead and start reading. 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 23. And this is David speaking. David is, Israel is camped going against the Philistines. Israel's in one camp, the Philistines are another. So they're kind of camped out. And David comes to the camp to give his brother supplies. I think both his brothers, however many brothers he had there. He was bringing them supplies from home, and he's talking to the men at the camp. 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 23. And he talked with them. Behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words, and David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were sore afraid. And the men of Israel said, Have ye seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up, and it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? And the people answer him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killeth him. And Eliab his eldest brother heard when he spake unto the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and said, Why camest thou hither? With whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and the naughtiness of thine heart, for thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. So that goes to my first point right there. That is, people will doubt your intentions when you're trying. That's why people don't take you seriously. They don't think you have good intentions. In this case, David was wondering, why is this guy talking? Why is Goliath disrespecting us? And what would happen to the guy that took him out or defeated him? And David was talking to the people, and his brother said, you're just here to see the battle. You're just here for fun. He says, why are you bothering us? David's brother doubted his intentions and said, you are not here for good reason. You're just here because it's exciting. And that's all. And a lot of times in life, we get the same treatment a lot of times, especially if you do something that's drastically different that you've never done before. The first thing people say to you is kind of like, man, you can't do that. You're not serious about that. You're going to have fun with it for a few months and then you're going to give it up. If this is just a new hobby. This is just a new thing for you, but you're gonna get bored of it quickly, and that happens all the time. And sometimes people are right about you. Sometimes you do that. We all do that. But if we're making serious changes, to our lives, we have to stick to it. And even if people doubt you, the best thing to do is just show them, that you're serious about whatever you're doing. But let's look at let's go a little further and look at David's response to it. And David said, "What have I now done? Is there not a cause?" And he turned from him toward another and spake after the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner. So even when David's brother doubted him, David didn't really respond. He just said, "What have I done?" and kept on doing what he was doing. He didn't let his brother's doubt in him distract him from doing what, he wanted to do or what he felt needed to be done. Because you have a man of Gath, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath, disrespecting Israel, and David saying, my brother can doubt me if he wants. I don't care about that. I'm going to keep talking and inquiring about, what's to be done about this uncircumcised Philistine, which is kind of like a cold disrespect for that type, I guess. So David said, I'm not going to worry about what my brother said. I'm just going to do what I need to do. And sometimes that when we want people to take it seriously, sometimes we don't always have to necessarily, respond to every provocation. We just got to stay focused, do what we need to do, and just continue, keep our eye on the prize, keep on that goal. But let's go a little further, and let's go to 31. Let's go 31, the next verse. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight this Philistine." And Saul said to David, "Thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, but he a man of war from his youth." So right there, that goes to the second point, which is people will point out your lack of experience. What Saul was telling David, and this was actually a good warning. He was saying, "You're but a young guy. You're a shepherd. You are somebody that's not a person of war." But Goliath is a man of war. He's been a man of war since he was young. And Saul was telling David, how you gonna beat him when you don't have the experience fighting. And David, and that happens a lot of times too. People say, you don't have experience in certain stuff, and it's true sometimes, and sometimes it's not. In this case, it wasn't true. Let's go a little further and look at how David says, I do have experience. I am qualified to go against Goliath. And let's read 34. And David said unto Saul, "Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he had defied the armies of the living God." David said, "Moreover, the Lord had delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear. He will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine." And Saul said unto David, "Go, and the Lord be with thee." So David had to explain to Saul that, I may have not necessarily fought a giant before, because Goliath was a giant at the time. I think he was about 9 feet tall. But David said, "I have fought big animals. I fought a bear. I fought a lion. I slew them. I went after them. I showed no fear and took out the things that were attacking my sheep." And this Goliath person is attacking, David's people, David's sheep, the people that David should protect. Goliath is attacking them verbally and physically because, they're at war. And he's saying, that's not going to happen. I'm going to deliver my people just like I delivered the sheep when I was in charge of watching them. And in life, sometimes a lot of people will doubt your experience because you haven't done something specific. Maybe like, it's a new job or it's a, different career path, but that doesn't mean you're not experienced. You may be experienced in other ways. For example, when I applied for my internship at the job, the company I currently work for, what I pointed to was I didn't have a lot of internship experience at the time. When I applied for it, I didn't do another internship, but I said, I still had experience. I worked at a museum and I volunteered there. And when I volunteered at the museum, I'm in the museum business for those of you that don't know. But what happened was when I was in college, I used to work for a museum. I was maintenance, but I would always spend time with the curator, helped her log artifacts and do stuff like that. Take care of the artifacts, make sure they were cleaned properly, and that they were preserved properly. And then I also volunteered at another museum, near the school. And I would go there, work on their database. I would log information for them. So I got a lot of experience doing that. And when I applied for, my internship at my current job, I pointed that out. I said, I may not have had official experience, but, I still had experience. I still did stuff. I volunteered and I found ways to, get the necessary experience in order to help y'all out. So I'm an asset to you, even though I may not have done specifically what you, initially said in your job description. And I think when people don't take you seriously and they point out your lack of experience, sometimes you gotta let them know, I do have experience, just not in the ways you think of, but I'm still qualified to do what I need to do. And sometimes when you point that out, people will begin to take you seriously when they can see that. But you got to point it out to them. Sometimes it's not always clear to people. Sometimes they'll just look at strictly what's on paper, but sometimes you got to tell them, I have more to bring. And a lot of times we do have more to bring than just what's on a piece of paper. But let's finish off. Let's go to that was the second point. Let's go to our third point. Let's read 38 through 40. And Saul armed David with his armor and put a helmet of brass on his head, and also armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. Basically, he couldn't wear it. It wasn't, fitting well. It was heavy. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off. And he took his staff in his hand and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in script. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near the Philistine. Sometimes when people, don't take us seriously, or we're trying to make, that growth, people will have a lot of suggestions on the way you should do stuff. They'll say, you need to do things this way. This is the method you should follow. But sometimes what works for them doesn't necessarily work for you. Sometimes you have to adjust to things in life to fit you personally and do stuff that actually works best for you. I'll give you an example. For me personally, I try to diet, and I've lost a lot of weight. I was at one point at 340, and now I'm about 260. Over quite a while of time. Over the course of 2 years, I've lost a significant amount of weight. I'm still very big, but I'm still trying to lose. And I remember people would give me a lot of suggestions on how to lose weight. There are certain people that, would jog all the time. But I would never really jog because it used to hurt my knees and used to be in a lot of pain, so I could never jog. Some people suggested, small, low calorie diets, and I got all these different suggestions. And eventually, I took their advice and I tried it, and it didn't work for me. But eventually, I researched and found ways to lose weight that worked perfectly for me. So for me, that happened to be doing a lot of jump rope. Started doing intermittent fasting, started eating in a small window. Didn't change up my diet too much. I just cut out, sugar, but ate a lot of eggs, ate a lot of, protein and stuff like that. So it wasn't what they suggested to me, but I took their suggestions, listened to it, and took, what I thought what was useful to me and got rid of the bad. And when I figured out a method that worked for me, I was successful and, losing the weight I needed to. And just like David said, I'm going to fight this Philistine, but I can't fight it your way. I can't put on this armor, this coat of mail. I can't fight the way you want me to fight. I have to fight the way I fought before, the ways I know how to. And that's when David got the stones and everything. And we know the story. He did his sling and smote Goliath I think in the forehead and killed him like that. So when people don't take you seriously, sometimes they will try to get you to do their methods or get you to do stuff their way. And it's important to listen to their suggestions, but ultimately you have to find what fits you and what are your strengths and weaknesses and what can you do as a person and what is the best way so you can be successful and in your spiritual life, in your physical life, in your family, in your job and career. You always have to find your own method. And when you learn, the 3 different reasons why people don't take you seriously, and you learn how to combat that and deal with that, people will start to take you seriously, and you can become a healthier young adult. But that was a lesson for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you liked my breakdown of. It's a story that we all tell, but sometimes it's good to revisit it and put a little different lesson to it, and because the Bible is meant for that. It's profitable for a lot of different stuff. So I hope that you enjoy the lesson and that you'll subscribe, so you can get the videos every Sunday when I release them and continue to grow in the Lord. But see y'all later.